Zero filling a drive is sufficient on all modern drives. Here's a real quickie for you. I've got this computer here, this Dell, that a guy gave to me. It's his old computer. It has a hard drive. It has 4 gigs of RAM. It needs some upgrades. But his strict requirement was that I have to erase everything on this so no one can ever get the data back. He's really concerned about data privacy, so the first thing I did was I whipped it open and started to erase the hard drive. Now, there are many ways you can do it, but with a traditional hard drive, the fastest way to do it is just to write to it front to back. So let's take a quick look here. This is my file system information tool, but you can glean the same general information from like cat/proc/partitions. I have my flash drive, which you can remove if you're worried about accidentally erasing it. And any live Linux system you can do this, by the way. And then SDB here is the 500 gigabyte Western Digital hard drive. So what I've done is I made the font bigger for you, and this is the command I used, PV, and then a bunch of options that give you all these displays. dev0 out to dev SDB. You can actually see the original type there without the 1, but what this does is the same thing as cat/dev/0 out to /dev/SDB. It takes the 0 device, which just spews 0 values, and writes it from start to finish to whatever SDB is, in this case the 500 gigabyte hard drive. Zero filling a drive is sufficient on all modern drives, any drive within the past 20 years for sure, PRML, EPRML, you name it, but writing zeros is enough to erase it to the point that even the CIA can't get it back. So, yeah, and don't give me the stuff about the Gutman wipe, DOD standard wipe. That's all based on disk technologies from the 90s and even 80s. So, it's progressing down here. This is why I use PV instead of CAT, because I at least get some progress report. So I can see it's written 1/5 of the drive. The percentage should agree. Yep, 22%. It's a little past 1/5. And this is why I like PV. Pipe viewer, which it's ivarch.com is the website for that, but most distributions have it if you just install the package PV, and it's showing me how fast it's doing what it's doing and how much is left. But another notable thing while I'm here is that hard drives, and when I'm saying hard drives, just to be clear, I'm talking about this kind of hard drive. We are not talking about one of these SSDs. I got a dongle on it right now, but I'm not talking about an SSD. Hard drives, these hard drives have platters, and when the platters spin at 5,400 RPM or whatever, the inner tracks have lower data density than the outer tracks. So the outer track is the start and goes much faster than the inner track for the same amount of data. So what you see here is that on average, it's showing here the instantaneous speed and the average speed over the course of the transfer. The reason that the speed over the course of the entire transfer is 132, but the speed right now is kind of slower than that. You see it bounces a bit, but it's still slower than 132, and it's fairly obvious. The reason that it's slower is that we've gone through almost a quarter of the disk at this point. So we are going towards the inner tracks, the lower density tracks, which are slower. This is also why my disk imaging philosophy is to take the disk, the image, the file system, and shrink it to the beginning of the disk as much as possible. On a traditional hard drive, good old spinning rust, it goes way faster if the whole system is right there at the front of the disk. Now, obviously, there are some detriments that can come from this, but in general, that entire system is faster relative to itself. Updates sort of ruin the whole game, but there you go. Anyway, this is how I erase data on drives. It is not necessary to do all the fancy pants wipes. A zero feels good enough, and you can be confident in that. If you're not, just remember, it's also true that you're probably not interesting enough for somebody to tear a drive apart and take a scanning, tunneling electron microscope to figure out what kind of tank tops you were shopping for the other week. Why you were doing that in winter, or maybe you're just in Australia. I don't know. All right, so confirmed. everybody watching is in Australia. Anyway, I hope that this has been informative. I know it's a real simple thing, but, you know, some people don't know how to do it. I mean, some people go to the trouble of downloading, like, Derek's Boot and Nuke to do it. You got a live Linux lying around, you can just whip open a terminal, cat dev 0 out to the device, and destroy everything. It's so much fun. And if you're impatient, you could even cat it out to just the partition. Like in this case, we can see SDB2 is the useful partition. The rest is just boot and recovery. And that'll skip 1 gig of it. Not much of a gain there, but yeah, you get the idea. Anywho, like, comment, subscribe, and all that garbage. Hope to see you in the next one.